disease? What are the causes and symptoms? How is memory deterioration associated with Alzheimer's disease experienced? How can we see the differences between declarative and procedural memories as memory deterioration continues throughout the course of Alzheimer's disease? These are the questions I was asked from my psychology teacher in Brookdale. Shout out to Brookdale on YouTube. Okay, so Alzheimer's disease is defined as a progressive mental deterioration occurring in middle or old age. Usually, Alzheimer's happens when you're older. It's due to generalized degeneration of the brain. It causes memory deterioration in certain parts of the brain. Different types of memories are disrupted, including declarative and procedural memories. I will discuss in detail all these topics in the following paragraphs. Alzheimer's is a brain disease, which we put on the neurological side of the medical field. This causes the loss of mental abilities, including memory and reasoning, which make it hard to communicate in relationships. So basically, if you have Alzheimer's, you don't remember anyone, you can't communicate with anyone because you don't know, you just can't. Your language is affected. You can't speak properly. You don't know who anyone is. You're just a body, basically. You can't have a job while while you're in that. No one's gonna hire you, and you can't do anything. During this disease, plaques and tangles form in the brain, causing cells to perish. They also have a lack of chemicals, which are needed in the brain to send messages. It is the most common form of dementia, and it gets worse as the person gets older. As this disease progresses, it gets worse. So, it'll start at the beginning stage. You'll be like, who's my usual gardener? Who's that? And then maybe a year later, it'll be like, oh my God, who's my kid? You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely a serious disease. This disease is irreversible because you can't regrow brain cells. Once they are terminated, they are gone for good. These days we can slow down the disease, but who would want, some people just don't want to do that because, why would you just want to slow down, Some people just want to die. They're going to die anyway. They don't want to pause it. They don't want to be in this condition for a longer time. So they opt out for the treatment. According to the National Institute on Aging, there are approximate numbers between 2.4 million and 4.5 million people in the United States with Alzheimer's. A third of our seniors die with Alzheimer's or from another state of dementia every year. No, not every year. From 2000 to 2010. And an autopsy of Alzheimer's shows that the brain is affected in the parts of the brain where there is memory, causing memory loss. That's what I said before. It affects the fibers, getting to the part of the brain where it affects the memory. Scientists say that these plaques cause neurons to shrink and eventually perish. So you lose brain cells in parts of the brain and you can't get them back. First it affects the language parts, and then it affects first it affects the memory, and then the language, and then finally throughout the rest of the brain. As explained in the previous paragraph, I said there was a lack of chemicals in the brain. This is due to deterioration in the forebrain, which reduces the production of some brain chemicals. This is a key factor in memory loss because of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Declarative memory is memory from common sense and events. It refers to the memories that can be recalled consciously. Also known as explicit memory, it is made up of information that's received and stored. Procedural memory is known as the unconscious memory of everyday skills ranging from picking up a spoon to walking down the block. We don't even have to think about making these actions because there's a body memory. So we remember everything in our declarative memory is just common sense. Events that happen. If I touch this stove, it's going to be hot because I know that I touched the stove once and it was hot. It's in my memory. It was stored and received. But in the unconscious memory, in the procedural memory, it's basically just like picking up a spoon, riding a bike, basic things that you do every day. And you lose both of those in your long-term memory. Norm McNamara was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He posted an article that was titled, "I have Alzheimer's, there is no cure, I'm dying. Fact." He has Alzheimer's, and he claims to prepare that he has the financial backing to send his kids to school for the whatever remainder. His wife, to secure that, got a full-time career. He told his wife to put him in residential care, no matter how much he argued, because he wouldn't remember that he told his wife that. You know what I'm saying? Because he had Alzheimer's. He would have Alzheimer's. But he wants to be put in residential care to not, be a burden on his family. As he suffers the amnesia and dementia, he doesn't want to be anywhere near his wife and kids. Obviously, they would visit him, so on and so on. He's only 52 years old. He was 4 years diagnosed. The fibers are eating at his brain every day, and he encourages everyone with this terminal disease to make sure the loved ones are taken care of, which I think is very touching. That he would think of his family before he thought of, oh, I got all this money, I'm gonna die soon. Let me just go buy everything, let me go buy a jet plane. No, he put it into his kids' education. I think that's very important. It's good, kudos to Norm McNamara. In conclusion, how can you prevent this disease? Researchers found in University of California reported at the Radiology Society of North America last November said that this disease can be slowed down or prevented. If you have an active lifestyle, it can slow down your Alzheimer's. But if you're Alzheimer's free and you're active, it has shown that you are at lower risk of contracting the disease. The disease is a terrible neurological disaster, and it usually attacks the elderly. So basically, I feel for anyone who has this disease. It's a terrible disease. It affects your short-term memory, and then it affects your long-term memory. It's just a disaster. You're just, after a certain point, you're just a body just laying there, and then you ultimately just die from the disease. Yeah, okay. Thank you for listening. Please give me extra credit accordingly. Thank you. It was a beautiful class. I enjoyed it very much. You're a great teacher. Have a nice rest of your teaching life.